Alphas love two sounds, their own voice, and the sound of an omega shutting up. Unfortunately for them, I love to talk. I stirred my coffee, letting the silence stretch across the tiny corner cafe like a rubber band on the verge of snapping. He was still watching me. Big, broad shoulders, military posture, the kind of presence that made everyone instinctively lower their eyes. Everyone but me. I took another sip, lifted my gaze, and met his head on. He flinched. Bingo. I smiled slowly. If you're going to stalk me, the least you could do is buy me a drink. He hesitated, then stood and walked over, each step radiating controlled tension. Like he was holding himself back from something, from lunging maybe, or bolting. Interesting. He sat across from me, eyes sharp, mouth unreadable. His scent was scrubbed clean, too neutral to be natural. He was masking. Rookie mistake. "Ryan Howl?" he asked, low and calm. I tilted my head. "Depends. Are you here to arrest me or flirt with me?" "Hunter Draven. I was sent by the council." Ding ding ding. Of course he was. I leaned back, arms crossed behind my head. "Well, Hunter Draven, you found me. That's impressive. Most alphas can't see past their own egos long enough to read a city map." He didn't take the bait. Just watched me like I was a live grenade someone had handed him with the pin half pulled. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "But you need to come back." See, that's where our little chat hits a wall. I don't do need. I do want. And I don't want to go back. I let the silence bloom between us again. Let him stew. I could see the flicker of uncertainty under all that discipline. Then I dropped the match. "Let's make a deal." His brows lifted, just barely. "You're going to tell the council that you found me, and that I've agreed to return for evaluation. No lies." "Who said anything about lying?" I grinned. "I'll return. But on my terms. I want a trial month. We pretend to be bonded. You and me, a temporary pair. You stay with me, live here, observe. You tell them if I'm unstable, dangerous, or unfit." His jaw clenched. "You're an Omega?" "Yes, congratulations, you can read. I'm also a tax-paying citizen, a halfway decent cook, and I've never bitten a mailman." I leaned forward. "What they want is to break me. I want to prove I can't be. And you?" I studied him. Watched the faint twitch in his temple. "You don't like how the council works." "Not really. You follow orders. But something about this isn't sitting right, is it?" His silence told me I was right. "So," I said, spreading my hands. "Live with me for 1 month. Play happy couple. No marking, no claiming, no actual mating. You stay out of my room and I stay out of yours. But we show them something new. An Omega who doesn't submit. An Alpha who doesn't dominate. Just two people trying to survive a system that's way past its expiration date." Hunter was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, "Why would I trust you?" I smiled, slow and sharp. "You shouldn't. But you're here anyway." Another long pause. Then, to my surprise, he said, "Fine." I blinked. "Wait. Really?" His eyes didn't waver. 1 month. That's it. I leaned back and lifted my coffee. "To new beginnings." He didn't smile, but his gaze flicked to the cup. "I don't drink coffee." "That's okay." I winked. "You'll learn." Later that evening, I cleaned the spare room. It still had unpacked boxes, old books, a broken humidifier, and one framed photo I'd shoved face down months ago. I picked it up, stared at the image of a much younger me, wrapped in the arms of someone I'd once thought was my future. He was an alpha too, a different kind. The kind that smiles with his mouth, and punishes with his hands. I set the frame down, face down again. This deal with Hunter? It was stupid, reckless, potentially self-sabotaging. But it was also mine. For once, I'd set the terms. And if I was going to be hunted like prey, I might as well teach the predators how to beg. The first morning was the worst. I padded into the kitchen barefoot, wearing my favorite black robe, the one with stitched-on moons and 2 mysterious coffee stains I refused to explain. The sun filtered through the tall warehouse windows, casting dusty gold light across the tile. It would have felt like a peaceful morning if there wasn't a 6'2" alpha already standing in my kitchen, making eggs like he owned the place. Hunter wore a fitted army green t-shirt that clung a little too well to his arms. His expression was blank, but his stance screamed alertness. I'd seen less tension in a hostage standoff. He glanced at me. "You sleep in that?" I poured my coffee. "What, jealous?" "No. Just surprised you own something that looks like it was made for a wizard with poor taste." "Oh, sweetie. You haven't even seen my socks." He didn't answer, just returned to flipping eggs. I perched on a bar stool and sipped my coffee like it was wine, and he was the entertainment. "You always cook in silence, or is this some alpha ritual? The stoic breakfast of dominance thing?" His jaw ticked. "Do you always talk this much?" I grinned. "Only when breathing." He set a plate down in front of me, 2 scrambled eggs and toast, then turned to make his own. "No poison. Shame." I poked at the food. "You're not bad at this. Did they teach cooking at the Alpha Academy of Growling and Flexing?" He ignored me. Good, that meant I was getting under his skin. Across from me, he finally sat down with his own plate. For 2 minutes, we ate in silence. Then came the knock. "Mrs. May." The door creaked open before I could get there. Hunter stood first, because of course he did. Alpha instincts or whatever. "Oh my," came the cheerful voice of our neighbor. I didn't mean to intrude. I reached the door. "Too late now, May. You've caught us in the scandalous act of breakfast." She giggled like a teenager. "I just brought you 2 another candle, lavender and cinnamon, for ambiance." She handed Hunter a small bag, winked at both of us, then toddled away down the hall in her pink slippers. Hunter blinked. "Does she think we're—" "Oh, she absolutely thinks we're mated." I may have forgotten to correct her. "Oops." He looked at the candle like it might explode. "You enjoy this, don't you?" "Very much." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan. Through the thin wall, I could hear Hunter shifting in his bed, restless. Or maybe he was just wondering what the hell he'd gotten himself into. Too late now. I closed my eyes. And like always, the quiet dragged the memories back. It was late. I remember the moonlight through the window, slanted and soft. I'd said no. That was it. One word. No. I didn't want to follow the order. Didn't want to kneel. Didn't want to be praised for obedience like I was a dog in training. He hadn't yelled. Not at first. Just walked toward me slowly. Calm. Calculating. Then the crack of pain. I hit the wall hard enough to feel my rib give way. And then came the worst part. He didn't say a word. Just looked at me with disappointment. Like I had failed him. I remember thinking, if I stay, I disappear. So I ran. I blinked back into the present, swallowing hard. I didn't regret running. I just hated that even now, safe in my own space, I still felt the urge to flinch. I don't want to guard myself from every alpha, but how do you unlearn armor when you're the only one who's ever protected you? The next day, I found Hunter rearranging my spice rack. I froze in the doorway. "Are you reorganizing my kitchen?" He glanced over. "Yes." "Why?" It was chaos. That was flavorful chaos. It had personality. It had expired nutmeg from 2018. I crossed my arms. I was aging it. He turned back to the cabinet like he couldn't hear my sarcasm. I watched him for a second. The focused furrow in his brow, the quiet efficiency. He wasn't doing it to assert dominance. He was just orderly. Which, somehow, was worse. "You're very clean for a council dog," I muttered. His voice was flat. "I'm not their dog." I raised an eyebrow. "Then what are you?" He paused. Then, without turning around, said, "A man doing what he's told, until he finds a reason not to." That stopped me. I didn't respond. I didn't tease. I just watched him silently. Maybe I wasn't the only one with a leash around his throat. Later that evening, I found the lavender cinnamon candle on the kitchen table. Lit. The smell filled the air. Soft, warm, absurdly domestic. I stood there for a second, staring at it. Then I whispered to the empty room. We're going to make the council foam at the mouth. And for once, that thought didn't feel like a shield. It felt like a spark. The restaurant was all polished chrome and dim lighting, like someone had tried to cross a nightclub with a hunting lodge and called it urban rustic. The scent of roasted meat lingered in the air, along with something sharper. Dominance, tension, too much cologne. Ah, yes. A room full of alphas. I smirked, and nudged Hunter's shoulder as we walked in. You sure you don't want to mark me real quick? Just to set the mood? His eyes flicked to mine. No. Shame. I could have used a conversation starter. Inside, heads turned. They always do when an unmated Omega walks into a pack event looking like he owns the room. My black button-down hugged just enough, and hinted at more. I'd rolled the sleeves up, because I like to show scars that don't need explanations. Hunter walked beside me like a wall in a tailored suit. Silent, straight-backed, steady. He wasn't touching me, but I could feel the tension in his shoulders, the way his arm kept brushing mine and pulling back like he didn't trust what would happen if he didn't. I made sure to smile at every gaze that lingered too long, especially the judgmental ones. Relax, I whispered. You look like you're headed to a funeral. I feel like I'm about to be interrogated. Oh, you will be. Smile pretty. We didn't get 2 steps past the bar before someone approached. Hunter, a woman with glossy black hair, severe cheekbones, and heels sharp enough to stab an ego. She had the kind of voice that could cut paper. Hannah, Hunter said carefully. So this was her, Hannah Gray, his friend, his very close friend, according to certain council gossip. Her eyes slid to me, assessing. Cold, curious, calculating. And this is? I beat Hunter to it. His Omega. Ryan. Pleasure. I offered my hand. She didn't take it. Ah, she said instead. I didn't know you were seeing someone. I smiled, sugar and venom. Neither did he, until I threw myself into his arms in a dramatic display of desperation. Very soap opera. Hunter made a sound that might have been a suppressed groan. Hannah's gaze sharpened. How'd you two meet? I leaned in like I was sharing a scandal. On a hunt. He tracked me for days. Caught me in a clearing. I paused. I wasn't impressed. A few alphas nearby chuckled nervously. Hannah didn't. She turned to Hunter. Council business must be complicated. Hunter's voice was even. It is, and being involved like this doesn't interfere? No. Gods, he really knew how to light up a room. I saved us both. We're not interfering. We're cooperating. Radical concept, I know. Hannah's lips thinned. Of course. She stepped away, but not without one last look that said, this isn't over. Spoiler, I hoped not. The rest of the night blurred into whine, forced laughter, and too many questions. So Ryan, where are you from? Oh, here and there. Mostly the wrong side of expectation. What do you do? Talk too much, and avoid being tamed. How's life with an alpha? Louder than I'd like. But the view's nice. Through it all, Hunter stayed quiet. Watchful. He barely spoke, but every time someone got too close to me, I saw his jaw tighten. His hand brushed the small of my back once. Maybe on purpose. Maybe not. I didn't mind either way. When dessert came, I leaned into his side just a little too casually. Still think this is a bad idea? He didn't answer. But he didn't pull away either. Later, when we stepped out into the night air, I let out a sigh. That was exhausting. Do your people always try to sniff out weaknesses with a smile? Hunter gave a low grunt. You didn't make it easy. Wasn't trying to. I stretched my arms over my head, letting the moonlight hit my face. It's fun, you know, being the unpredictable one. Confuses the hell out of them. He didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was lower than usual. Softer. You make everyone think you're laughing. I froze. But you're not. The wind picked up. Cold. Sharp. I don't know what you're talking about, I said too quickly. Hunter turned to face me. His eyes weren't unreadable anymore. They were seeing me. actually seeing. You keep them guessing, keep them uncomfortable. But it's not because you like chaos. It's because it's safer to be the wild card than the broken one. For a second, I hated him. Because he wasn't wrong. But also because he was looking at me like I was worth understanding. And I didn't know how to take that. I smiled, bitter. Well, congratulations. You've unlocked level 1 of the Omega defense system. What now, detective? He didn't answer, just watched me. So I turned away. Let's go home, Hunter. Before someone mistakes this for a moment, if you stare at someone long enough, they either look away or start looking back. And I wasn't sure what scared me more. The night had teeth. It didn't bite, not exactly. It hovered, breathless and quiet, like the pause between thunder and the next flash of light. The loft was dark except for the reading lamp above the couch and the soft hum of the ceiling fan overhead. I was curled up with a book I wasn't reading, one leg tucked under me, the other dangling off the edge. The window was cracked open, letting in a late summer breeze and the distant sound of city traffic. It should have been peaceful, but then the envelope slid through the mail slot. No knock, no footsteps, just a whisper of paper on wood. My spine straightened before my brain caught up. I walked over slowly, my bare feet silent on the floor, and stared down at the envelope. No name, no stamp, just my alias, scrawled in sharp ink, Aiden. I picked it up, tore it open, and unfolded the single sheet. You can pretend all you want. You're still mine, and hiding behind another alpha won't save you. See, I stared at the signature, just the initial. He didn't need more. I would have recognized that handwriting anywhere. For a moment, everything went still, even my breath. Then the flash came. I was running. Night air tore through my lungs like fire, trees blurring past as I stumbled down the slope behind the pack house. My feet were bleeding, my ribs screaming, but I didn't stop. Behind me, nothing. No footsteps, no voice, just the memory of his hand against my face, the snap of bone, the cold, quiet rage. You don't disobey me. I remembered falling, hitting the ground, rolling, dazed, and thinking, in that surreal moment of silence, this is what dying feels like. But then, I moved, and kept moving. And when I finally made it across the border, collapsed into mud and pine needles, I looked over my shoulder for the first time and whispered, I made it? As if I needed to ask permission to survive. Now, standing in my quiet loft, letter in hand, I whispered something different. Coward. I lit the letter in the sink, watched it curl and blacken until it became nothing but ash. But the burn stayed in my chest. Later that night, I stepped out of the shower, towel around my waist, damp curls dripping down my neck. I didn't hear the footsteps until they were close. Soft, hesitant. Hunter. I turned just as he stepped into the hall holding something. One of the candles Mrs. May had dropped off. Lit. The flame flickered awkwardly between us. I didn't know you were... He started, then stopped. His eyes caught on the pale skin of my back. The scars weren't dramatic, no claw marks or raised ridges, just a few white lines, faint but unmistakable, across my right shoulder blade, one down near my ribs. He stared for a moment too long. I sighed and leaned against the doorframe. You want to ask, so go ahead. His voice was quiet. That's all from him? I shrugged. Most of it. Except that one. I pointed to the faint line near my waist. That was from a door. I don't always make graceful exits. He didn't smile, but his jaw softened. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what, that I got knocked around by someone I trusted, that my last mate didn't like when I talked back? You're counsel adjacent, Draven. That's not the kind of bedtime story I share with your kind. You think I'd judge you? I think you were trained to... That came out sharper than I intended. Hunter looked down. The candle flickered between us again. I didn't want to be what they made me, he said finally. They raised me to lead, to obey, to suppress everything human inside me, and call it strength. He looked up, and his eyes were steady. I'm still unlearning that. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Because... Same. I glanced at the candle. You lighting that for ambiance, or because you were hoping to mask the smell of emotional baggage? He snorted, which might have been the first real laugh I got from him. I stepped past him toward the kitchen, still towel-wrapped and dripping. You know, most alphas flinch when they see scars on an omega, either out of guilt or disgust. I didn't flinch. No, I said, grabbing a glass. You just stared like you wanted to memorize them. He didn't deny it. A little while later, we sat on opposite ends of the couch, a movie playing in the background that neither of us was watching. The candle still burned, its soft lavender hue glowing between us. I broke the silence. He sent me a letter tonight. Hunter turned to me. I explained in as few words as possible. I didn't need comfort. I needed him to know. Do you want me to report it? He asked. I shook my head. No point. The council won't punish one of their own. Especially not for threatening a difficult omega. Hunter's fists clenched, not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. Then he said, low and certain, he doesn't get to touch you again. I stared at him. Protective instincts kicking in, Alpha? No, he said. Personal ones. And then he looked away, as if that admission cost him something. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because suddenly, the silence didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt shared. If I had to name the scent of the council's training grounds, it would be control. Not pine or dirt or even blood, though all of that lingered. But something colder. Like stone halls and sealed doors. Like decisions made behind someone else's spine. The camp was buried deep in the woods. A clearing ringed by tall trees, a lake reflecting too much sky, and a wooden amphitheater that looked like it had seen more fear than applause. Hunter and I stood side by side as the rest of the group gathered. Mostly alphas, a few betas, and half a dozen omegas standing very still, very quiet. As if silence might make them invisible. It didn't. And the council knew it. Elder Martell stepped forward, tall, silver-haired, his posture a weapon all its own. His voice was like polished marble. Beautiful. Unyielding. Today's trial, he began, is not about strength, it is about instinct. Duty. Bond. His eyes moved from Hunter to me with surgical precision. Alpha Draven. You have vouched for this Omega's stability, for his autonomy. The council will see if that trust is justified. I snorted quietly. Oh, he's going to love this. Martell continued. The two of you will enter the perimeter forest. The task is simple. The Omega must evade a decoy predator and rely on his Alpha for protection. Success lies in submission and cooperation. Failure. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Hunter's jaw tightened. I just rolled my eyes. Tell me again how this isn't about power plays, I muttered. Because they're not subtle, he said under his breath. We were handed basic tracking gear. Knives, nothing more. No comms. No flares. They wanted instinct. Fine. They were about to get a different kind of survival. The forest swallowed us whole. Sunlight dappled through the canopy, but underfoot, it was all roots and shadows. The wind carried no sound. Not even birdsong. Hunter kept me in his line of sight. I let him. For the first 10 minutes, then, I disappeared. Slipped behind a tree, climbed a low ridge, doubled back and circled around. I moved fast, careful, light on my feet like I'd been trained, not as prey, but as something else. I heard the rustle before I saw the blur of fur, the decoy predator, a massive artificial wolf designed to intimidate and chase. Only, it didn't find me. It found Hunter. I cursed under my breath and moved faster. When I reached him, he was down. Legs slashed, one arm bleeding, blade clenched in his other hand. The fake wolf lay broken beside him. I told you, he rasped. This was rigged. I knelt beside him. Don't die dramatically. I haven't finished proving my point yet. He managed a grim smile. You ran. I thought that I'd leave you? I hauled his arm over my shoulder. What a romantic. This disqualifies us, he said. I looked him dead in the eye. Good. And I dragged him back toward the clearing. One agonizing step at a time. When we stumbled out of the woods, the silence that fell was hungry. Eyes widened. Elders whispered. Omegas blinked in disbelief. I stood, bloodied, sweat-soaked, supporting an alpha nearly twice my size. I let go of him slowly, and stepped forward alone. I didn't submit, I said, voice hoarse. I didn't run. I didn't wait to be saved. A ripple of tension. I protected him. I made the decision. I chose to act. Martel's eyes narrowed. You broke formation. No, I said. I broke expectation. Another ripple. Somewhere, a beta coughed. Or maybe choked on their discomfort. Omegas don't need protection, I said louder. We need choice. My voice rang out like a thrown blade. You've built this system on the belief that we're weaker, that we're born to be guided, claimed, kept. But what if you're just afraid of what we'd be without a leash? Gasps. A murmur. One of the younger Omegas across the crowd, a boy, maybe 19, lifted his chin just slightly. Martel's voice cracked across the clearing. You speak like a rebel, not a partner. This trial was a test of loyalty. To whom? I fired back. To the people who let alphas like mine beat silence into my bones? Or to the ones who watched and said nothing? Martel turned red. You forget yourself. No, I said quietly. I remember myself. That's the difference. I turned, walked back to Hunter, helped him stand. Someone clapped, just once, then again. It was quiet, hesitant, but it spread, from the edge of the amphitheater, from a few Omegas, a couple of Betas. Martel's expression turned to stone. Enough. This display was the point, I said. You can't make me small again. I outgrew your cages. His lips curled in disgust. You'll be removed from the registry. Permanently. Hunter's voice came behind me, rough but clear. Then I go with him. That silenced the rest. Martel stared at him. You would give up your rank? I would give up everything, Hunter said, before I let you make him less than he is. A long, vicious silence. Then Martel turned sharply. Leave. Both of you. You are no longer welcome under the council. I bowed, mockingly low. Oh no. However will I sleep? We left the camp in silence, limping and laughing at the same time. The trees felt softer as we passed them, less judgmental somehow. Hunter leaned on me, bloody but grinning. You just challenged the entire system. I know. You called the elder a coward to his face. I know. Pause. You're amazing. I blinked at him, then smiled. Well, someone had to teach you how to rebel properly. The council chamber was nothing like the forest. Here, the wild had been stripped clean. The room was all cold stone, tall windows that let in too much light, and vaulted ceilings that made your voice feel small, even when you shouted, which of course was the point. I stood in the center of the chamber alone, under the skylight that poured down white fire. Hunter was 10 steps behind me, close enough to see me fall, far enough to make it seem like he wouldn't catch me. Council members lined the curved dais above us. Robes, rings, judging eyes, the kind of stillness that didn't come from peace, but from power that believed itself eternal. Elder Martel sat in the center like a mountain that had decided to frown. He spoke without preamble. Ryan Howl. You were warned. You were tested. You defied the order of nature and challenged the system that protects us all. Pretty words for a cage, I said. You still have a choice, he continued, ignoring me. Return to the structure of the pack. Accept supervision. Submit, and you may be reintegrated. Rehabilitated. I barked out a laugh. Rehabilitated? I'm not a virus. You are a disruption. No, I said, stepping forward. I'm a mirror. You just don't like what you see. There were murmurs across the gallery. A few sharp inhales. Even the quiet ones couldn't hide the tremble under all that tradition. Martel's face hardened. Then you leave us no option. You will be marked as rogue. Unbondable, unprotected. No pack will recognize your name. I lifted my chin. I'll write a new one. Martell's gaze snapped to Hunter. And you, Alpha Draven. You vouched for this Omega. You've shamed your lineage, disobeyed directive, and dishonored your station. You may retain your rank. If you step away now. Hunter didn't move. Denounce him, Martell said, slower now, as if tasting the weight of it. Return to us, or be stripped of your title and exiled with him. The chamber fell silent. My heart wasn't beating. It was holding its breath. Hunter's eyes met mine. And then, he stepped forward. Not just a step. He joined me, shoulder to shoulder. A single motion that rang louder than any roar. When he spoke, it wasn't loud. But every word carved itself into the stone. He is stronger than any of you, Hunter said. Because he stood alone for years. And he's still standing. A murmur. Hunter looked up, voice steady. I am only strong because I stand beside him, not above him, not behind. Beside. Gasps. Some angry, some stunned. Martell stood. You disgrace. No, Hunter cut in. You disgrace the titles you hoard like trophies. You're afraid of change because it makes you powerless. But maybe it's time you were. He turned to me. And for a moment, no one else existed. His voice softened. If you still want me, I'm here. I swallowed. My throat ached. My hands trembled. And I said, you took long enough. They didn't try to stop us when we walked out. Not because they agreed, but because they couldn't, not without showing the world they feared what we were becoming. And fear, as every predator knows, is weakness with a heartbeat. The center didn't look like much from the outside. Just an old brick building with ivy growing up one wall and a hand-painted wooden sign that read, Haven. No logos. No slogans. Just a name, chosen by both of us, and a door that was always open. Inside, it was sunlight and warm colors. Plants on windowsills. Books, everywhere. A kettle, always on. We didn't have a receptionist. Or cameras. Or rules about where you had to sit. We just had space. And after everything, space was the most sacred thing I could offer. Today, I sat cross-legged on the floor across from a boy named Sky. He looked 16, maybe 17. Too thin. Too quiet. He wore long sleeves in the middle of summer and didn't meet my eyes. I recognized the silence in him. Not peaceful. Just hollowed out. Do you want to tell me what happened? I asked gently. He shrugged. I ran. That's it. That's not nothing, I said. That's survival. He looked up, startled. And this? I added, gesturing to the space around us. This isn't a trap. Or a test, it's a resting place. Stay an hour, a day, a year. No one's going to claim you. No one's going to make you kneel. His throat worked around the words. Then he whispered. I didn't think places like this were real. I smiled, slow and soft. Neither did I. So I built one. In the next room, Hunter was fixing the curtain rod for the third time this week. It kept falling because I'd installed it myself, terribly. I leaned in the doorway, watching him work. You know, if you keep being useful, I might start expecting it. He didn't look back. Please. We both know I do all the heavy lifting. Oh? You want to lift the emotional trauma next? That earned me a smirk over his shoulder. You know, I added, crossing my arms. For someone who used to follow council orders like they were gospel, you make a pretty decent TO conspirator. He stood, wiped his hands on a rag, and looked at me. You make it easy. I walked toward him. Not with urgency. Just comfort. A rhythm we'd found somewhere between rebellion and routine. Sky's going to stay a few nights, I said. Good. There was a pause. Then Hunter said, Do you ever worry they'll come for us? Try to shut it all down? I nodded. Sometimes, and I shrugged. Let them try. He studied me for a moment. Then said, You're terrifying, you know. Only on Thursdays. Around noon, someone knocked at the door. A polite knock. The kind that came with regret tucked inside it. I opened it to find Hannah Gray standing there. She was dressed like usual, Sharp lines, tailored coat, perfect lipstick. But her expression was unfamiliar. It wasn't cold. It was tired. "I'm not here to argue," she said. "Good. I don't argue before coffee." She hesitated, then extended a wrapped parcel. "It's for the center, supplies, bandages, food vouchers, some books." I took it without a word. She looked down at the floor, then back up. "I didn't get it. Back then. I really didn't." I nodded slowly. "Most people don't. Until it burns their house down." "I believed what I was taught," she said. "I thought Omegas were safe when controlled. That the system protected everyone. And now?" Her eyes met mine. "Now I think I helped it hurt people." There was a long pause. Then I said, "You're not evil, Hannah. You were just on the wrong side." She blinked. "You're not even angry?" "I was," I admitted. "But then I realized, my anger doesn't build anything. It only burns, and I've had enough of fires." She nodded once, tightly, then turned to leave. As the door closed behind her, Hunter stepped in from the kitchen. "Was that—" "Yeah. Did you stab her?" "Tempting. But no." That evening, the center was quiet. Sky had fallen asleep on the couch with a book across his chest. Hunter and I sat at the kitchen table, with empty plates and full hearts. I nudged his ankle under the table. "Dish duty's yours." "No way," he said. "I cooked. I emotionally supported the mission. I did manual labor. I talked to people." "That's your favorite thing." We stared at each other, then both burst out laughing. Hunter leaned back in his chair, hands laced behind his head. The candle on the table flickered, lavender and cinnamon again. Mrs. May kept sending them, like some romantic pyromancer. After a pause he asked, "Do you really think we won?" I looked around, the messy table, the safe boy asleep nearby, the center that wasn't just bricks but proof. Then I said, "No. I think I just made it impossible for anyone to force me to lose again." Hunter grinned. I reached for his hand across the table. He didn't grip it like a claim. He just held it like a choice.